You're listening to How to Drink Less, and I'm your host, Adriana Cloud. Whether your goal is to cut back, take a break, or say goodbye to alcohol for good, this podcast will help you stop drinking on autopilot, learn how to manage cravings, and feel fully in control around alcohol. It's easier than you think. Listen on to find out how. Hi everyone, welcome back. How is everyone doing? What is one thing that you're excited about this week? Tell me, write back and tell me. So today is going to be a different kind of episode. I am going to answer some questions that I get asked a lot about my coaching work. So if you've ever wondered what a sobriety coach actually does, or whether working with a coach one-on-one could help you to change your drinking, this episode will give you the answers. I will walk you through how I work with clients, what kinds of challenges I help with, and what makes coaching different from doing this work on your own. So I'll start with a question that I get asked the most, and that is, what does a sobriety coach do exactly? In the most basic terms, I help people to quit drinking or to cut back on drinking. Everyone's goals are different, and some people are ready for long-term sobriety, while others just want to get to a point where they don't feel like they need to drink every day. So I help people to achieve those goals and to have a more intentional relationship with alcohol, whatever that looks like for them. Sobriety coach is a title that I chose for myself. I am trained as a life coach and a gray area drinking coach and hypnotist, and it made sense to me to call myself a sobriety coach because that's what I'm passionate about, reclaiming sobriety as something fun and joyful and empowering, rather than the gray, drab existence that many of us associate with that word. And of course, titles don't really matter one bit. It doesn't matter what I put in my Instagram bio or on LinkedIn or on a printed business card. Not that I actually have those. What really matters is what I help people with, and that is to feel fully in control around alcohol and to build a rich and fulfilling life that they are happy about and they don't need to drink to escape. I also get asked, who do you work with? The people I work with would be called gray area drinkers. That's basically the quote unquote normal drinkers, not the people who are physically addicted to alcohol and who would need a medically supervised detox in order to safely taper off alcohol, and not the people at the other end of the spectrum who drink only rarely on special occasions, like a handful of times a year. Gray area drinkers is everyone in the middle, the people who drink regularly, even if they don't drink every single day. That's the group that I work with. Some of them are at the start of their journey and they're just interested in cutting back. They don't necessarily know what their long-term goal is, but they know that they want to drink less than they're currently drinking. Maybe they're noticing some negative side effects, or maybe they just don't like feeling like they need alcohol in order to get through the day, or they're worried about developing a dependence and they want to nip that in the bud. But most of the people who come to me are people who've known for a while that they're drinking more than they want to, and they've already tried to quit or to cut back, and they haven't been able to. Maybe they've tried taking a month off booze, or they've tried to cut back so they drink only on weekends, but they haven't been successful and they realize they need help. That's the majority of my clients, people who have tried to make changes on their own and who have the desire and the determination, but they haven't been able to make sustainable changes. And I do have some clients who are absolutely ready to be done with alcohol for good. Some people have struggled for years, trying different approaches to changing their habits, and they keep finding themselves repeating old patterns, and they're ready to quit for the last time and just be done forever. Okay, next question. What do you actually help people to do? I help them to feel in control around alcohol and to make choices that they feel better about. For example, I had a client who used to have a couple of glasses of wine every night when she was at home. It was just a routine that she and her partner had gotten into, having a few drinks together while watching TV every night when they were at home. And she noticed that it was affecting her sleep, and she felt groggy and puffy the next day with no energy. And her kids were avoiding her in the evening when she was drinking. And after just a few sessions with me, she completely stopped drinking at home. She still enjoys a couple of drinks when going out, and we worked on helping her moderate in those situations too. But she broke her pattern of opening a bottle of wine every night, and she was super happy about that. She said that her kids definitely noticed the change too, and were now spending more time with her. Another client struggled to stop once she had started drinking. So if she was going out with friends, she would just keep drinking, sometimes to the point of blacking out. And recently she shared that she went out with a friend and had one glass of wine. And when her friend suggested they get a second glass, my client realized that while the first glass had been very enjoyable, she didn't really want a second glass. And so she said, no, thank you. Something that she never could imagine doing in the past. And I want to mention one more client too, someone I worked with last year, and I checked in recently to see how she was doing. And not only is she sober and loving her alcohol free life, but she said that her husband saw how great she was doing after she quit drinking, and that inspired him to take a closer look at his own drinking habits too. This is what she wrote to me. In our 20 years together, I've never seen him take such a long break from alcohol. He loves the way he feels, and I love the energy that alcohol free living brings to our home. The positive ripple effects just keep building. So, this is a powerful reminder that when we work on changing our habits, it helps and inspires the people around us too. Okay, next question. I get asked a lot about my approach and how it's different from other programs out there that deal with sobriety. First of all, I don't believe that we are powerless over alcohol. I don't subscribe to the disease model of addiction, which claims that some people are born alcoholics and therefore they will always be alcoholics because there's something wrong with their brains. That motto has been disproven, but it still persists in some circles, as well as in popular narratives around alcohol use disorder. I disagree with that motto, and in fact, I think it's quite a harmful approach to changing a habit like drinking, because if you're constantly being told that you're an addict or an alcoholic and there's no cure for you, and if that's what you're telling yourself, guess what? That's what you're going to believe. And you're more likely to keep yourself stuck in your old patterns because you don't believe that you can change. It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. What I believe is that drinking is a powerful habit. It can become a deeply ingrained habit, and there's no denying that some people's brains respond differently to dopamine than other people's brains. But fundamentally, when you develop a strong drinking or overdrinking habit, it's just because your brain is acting exactly as it's supposed to. It learns how to automate the behaviors that you repeat again and again, and it learns what feels good and it keeps asking for it. This is good news because what has been learned can be unlearned. Our minds are more powerful than we realize and more malleable than we realize, and we can rewire our brains to respond differently. So that's one of the core beliefs I bring to this work, that we are not powerless over alcohol, but quite the opposite. And secondly, I don't believe in demonizing alcohol and trying to scare ourselves sober or to punish ourselves sober. Yes, of course, alcohol has negative effects on physical and mental health, and those have been well documented. As far as health goes, there is no safe amount of alcohol to consume. The research is quite conclusive that even small amounts of alcohol increase the risk of various health conditions. But focusing only on the negative effects and trying to tell ourselves that alcohol is a poison and toxic, it doesn't work as far as changing people's drinking habits, because it ignores the very simple fact that alcohol is providing a benefit. Everything we do has a positive intention. Even if that positive intention has long been eclipsed by the negative, there was something positive there to start with. Maybe alcohol was your coping tool when you were really anxious. Maybe drinking was a bonding experience with a friend when you were really lonely. Maybe it allowed you to let loose from the pressures in your life. It was doing something positive for you, and it's important to acknowledge that. Otherwise, you just end up shaming yourself for not being able to let go of it. When you can understand what benefit alcohol is providing, it becomes a lot easier to reframe your desire for it and to start changing your relationship with it. Next question. In practical terms, how exactly do you help your clients? What do you do with them? I use a mix of coaching and hypnosis. The type of coaching I practice, which is commonly called mindset coaching, is based on the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. And the basic idea there is that our thoughts create our feelings, and how we feel determines how we act. Which means that if you want to act differently, if you want to do something different, you have to look at what thoughts drive your current actions and change those thoughts, because thoughts are indeed optional, and we have more control than we realize over what we think about the world and about ourselves too. For example, let's say you have the thought, I am more boring when I don't drink. And so you drink because you think your friends find you more interesting that way. Of course, if you believe that, it's going to be hard to convince yourself not to drink. Now, you might think that this is an actual fact about you. It might feel true to you that you're boring when you don't drink, but it's just a thought. It's not verifiably true. It's just something that you've come to believe about yourself. And this is good news because thoughts are not set in stone. We can change them. You can actually teach yourself to believe new thoughts. So you can get to a point where you believe that when you're sober, you're actually more interesting because you're letting your true self step forward. This example is actually from my own life. I actually used to believe that alcohol made me more interesting. And now that thought is laughable to me. Now I believe the opposite, that when I show up as my true self, with my personality unfiltered through any substances, I am more interesting and more charismatic because I'm more human, more authentic, and more relatable. So, this idea that we can change our thoughts and that changes our behavior, that's the basic principle of mindset coaching. And that's a big part of what I do. And what makes my approach different is that I combine that with hypnosis, which means I work with those thoughts, feelings, and habits that have been repeated so many times that they have become unconscious. They've become automatic, which means that we do them on autopilot without really thinking. The way that you turn the light on when you enter a dark room. You don't have to remind yourself to turn on the light. You just do it automatically if you walk into a dark room. And it works the same way with habits like drinking. If you've taught your brain that every Friday you go to happy hour with your coworkers, then your brain learns to automate the desire for alcohol as well, which means that every Friday at the same time, your brain will start craving alcohol. With hypnosis, we can drop to the level of the unconscious and we can reprogram those habituated patterns in your brain so that the desire for alcohol is no longer the default. We can break the old habit loops much faster and teach your brain how to respond differently. At some point, I'll do a whole episode on hypnosis and how I use it because I know many people are not familiar with it. And what we see in Hollywood movies isn't at all like the kind of hypnosis that I practice. It's all driven by the client and it's self-directed. It's the client making suggestions to themselves rather than me telling them what to do. And it's a really powerful tool that my clients are seeing great results with. And of course, I have my own experience as a daily drinker and a problem drinker, and I use that to help my clients too. I know what it's like to be dependent on alcohol to get through the day and how challenging it can be to stop. So I bring my own experience of struggling with alcohol and questioning my drinking and doing the work to quit And from there, building a sober life that I love, where I can't ever imagine wanting to drink ever again. Okay, that was a long answer, but I hope that it was helpful. The next question is, what are some of the common beliefs or fears that people come to you with? When people come to me, a common belief they have is that they just don't have enough willpower to overcome their drinking problem. They think they have to get better at resisting the temptation to drink. But that's not the issue. It's not lack of willpower that keeps them stuck in their drinking habits. The real issue is that they've taught their brains to use alcohol to solve a problem, to help them to relax or manage stress or feel comfortable around other people. And until they can identify what benefit alcohol is providing and address that, it's going to be hard to just remove alcohol. Even if you manage to resist the urge, you'll still feel deprived and like you're missing out on something. You have to actually teach your brain not to want alcohol, because then it's really easy not to drink. Another common belief is that it will be too hard to cut back or to quit. And again, if you believe it's going to be too hard, you're less likely to even give it a try. Or even if you try, you're then more likely to focus on what's not working. And so this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what many people don't notice is that what they're already doing is hard. They worry that they'll feel miserable giving up alcohol, but they ignore the fact that they're already miserable drinking the way that they're drinking now. They are unhappy in their current lives, but they somehow tend to dismiss that and just worry about what it will be like trying to quit. And many people also believe that even if they manage to control their drinking and cut back or quit, their lives will be more dull and they won't have fun. And if you still want to drink and you're just resisting the temptation, then yes, that would be true. But when you no longer want alcohol, when you can truly take it or leave it and you don't miss it, then sobriety or a soberish life, if that's your goal, it can be a beautiful thing. That's what freedom is. And that's what I teach people, how to not want alcohol anymore. Next question. Can't I just do this work on my own? Do I really need to hire a coach? My answer to that is, of course you don't need to hire a coach. There are many different ways to do this work and get sober. But here's what I'll offer. If you could have made those changes on your own, if you could moderate and control your drinking on your own, then you would have done that already. If you could do that, then you'd always be drinking exactly as much as you wanted, and you'd feel totally in control and happy with your choices. And if that's not the case, then it may be time to look for some outside help. The thing is, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Your current thinking is what has led you to where you are. The way that you see alcohol and the way you think about yourself is what determines how much you drink and why you drink. And so, if you want to drink less or to have a different relationship with alcohol more generally, you have to change your thinking. And that's what's really hard to do on your own. That's where it really helps to have an outsider's perspective. The other thing about doing things on your own is that it takes longer. If you have a guide who can show you the way and give you tools and teach you techniques and help you practice, change is so much easier. Imagine if you're trying to learn to play the piano on your own or to find your way out of a maze. Sure, with a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error, you could teach yourself to play and you probably eventually find your way out of the maze. But it's so much faster if you have a teacher and a guide. The benefit of working with someone one-on-one is that they meet you exactly where you are and help you address your specific challenges. There's a lot of information out there on alcohol and drinking and how to change your habits, including this podcast. There's a lot you can learn by passively reading and listening to content. But there's a big difference between knowing something in theory and being able to apply that knowledge in practice in your own life. And as a coach, that's my role. I don't just give you a cookie cutter step-by-step guide for how to drink less. I work with you on what specifically is coming up in your life. It's not a vague, here's what to do in social situations. It's about, let's talk about your husband's work event next Wednesday and let's practice how you want to feel in that room full of strangers so that you can say no to the server passing around flutes of champagne. We get specific. The work I do with every client is different, and every session is different because people are different and their challenges are not the same. And that's why working with a coach one to one gives you the best results because they can give you the exact tools that you need and help you navigate your specific circumstances. And there are two other things that you get from working with a coach that you don't get if you're doing this work on your own. And I think both are vital. And I really regret that I didn't have that when I was doing this work to quit on my own. One is that a coach believes in you and in your ability to change, even when you don't always believe in yourself. I know when I was trying to quit, I had so much doubt that I could do it. I thought I was so weak and I was constantly disappointed in myself. And it was hard to really believe in that vision of being not only sober, but being sober and happy. I wish I'd had someone who believed in me back then so I could borrow their belief. And that's what I do with my clients now. I help them to hold that belief of who they are becoming and what's possible for them. Not only what's possible in general, but what's possible for them specifically, because I can see their potential and their strength way more clearly than they can see themselves. And the other thing is, as a coach, I help you to recognize and celebrate your progress. And this part is crucial. As a species, we have such a strong negativity bias that we're always focused on what's not working and how far we have yet to go. We tend to dismiss progress and we don't celebrate our accomplishments. But when you're trying to change a habit, it's vital to notice what is working, what's going well, and to reinforce that. Not just because it feels good to acknowledge you've made progress, but because celebrating that progress helps to rewire your brain. When you fully understand what you did that helped you to show up differently and say no to a drink or to stop at one drink, it means you can do it again. And that's what I do as a coach, in addition to cheering you on as you build those new skills day after day. If you're listening to this and thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, how can I find out more? Here's what you can do. Book a free consultation call with me. It's an hour-long call on Zoom where we get to know each other, no strings attached. You can tell me more about your individual situation and what challenges are coming up for you. And if I think that you're a good fit, I will tell you more about my work and we can discuss what it would look like to work together. Again, these calls are absolutely free and there's no pressure to hire me and become my client. But whatever you decide at the end of the call, I promise you that you will walk away with a better understanding of your current drinking patterns and what's keeping you from making the changes you want to make. And that is so valuable, even if we don't end up working together. Awareness is the first step towards change, and the better you understand the problem, the easier it is to solve it. So if any part of you is curious about working with me, just book a call and let's talk. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain because this one conversation might just be the difference between you changing your life completely or staying the same. And I don't just mean the difference between drinking and not drinking. The work that I do with my clients goes way beyond alcohol. The skills that you learn as far as how to manage your emotions, how to be fully present in your life, how to identify and honor your needs, how to build genuine connections that don't require alcohol, how to set and achieve goals, how to have self-compassion. These extend to every area in your life. I can say for myself that my life right now 4.5 years since I quit drinking is unrecognizable in the best way compared to my life as a drinker. And I see my clients making huge positive changes in their lives too, way beyond their drinking habits. And I want you to know that this is possible for you as well. It's not that drinking less or quitting magically fixes everything in your life. Far from it. But when you feel in control around alcohol and you start showing up the way that you want to, as the person you want to be, suddenly a lot more opportunities open up and it becomes a lot easier to build the life you want to have for yourself. And it can start with one conversation, because this work isn't just about drinking less. It's about trusting yourself again. It's about waking up proud of your choices instead of hungover and filled with regret. It's about finally feeling like you're the one in charge of your life, not the wine bottle. That's the kind of freedom my clients create, and that's what I want for you too. The link to book a consultation is in the show notes, so go ahead and schedule yours now, and I'll talk to you soon, either on Zoom for our one-on-one chat or next week on the podcast. Take good care and have a nice week. If you're looking for practical advice for how to say no to alcohol and say yes to yourself, you will want to get on my email list. Sign up to receive my free guide with 7 steps to kickstart your sobriety. The link is in the show notes, so go and grab it now, and I'll see you soon in your inbox.